Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, getting over an article titled, Young Men Giving Up on Marriage, Women Aren't Women Anymore. And they're damn right about that. And guys, this article is yet another article talking about how basically young guys, while once in the past they may have been interested in marriage and starting a family because that's just what you would do in society, they're thinking twice about it. And here's the interesting thing, guys. This article I'm doing here, this isn't from yesterday. This article, I found this, I thought it was a good one, is actually from 2013. So it's 7 years old. But it goes to show you that all back then, 7 years ago, already guys are realizing, hey, this shit doesn't work anymore, okay? And you're going to see some statistics, you're going to get some numbers here. They're going to talk about how back then, things are already starting to change. But fast forward to now, 2020, and those numbers are way higher now, because back then you didn't go on, to my knowledge, you didn't go on YouTube and had guys talking about all these different things. You didn't have guys saying, don't get married. You're basically in for some hell for decades or life if you do it. Okay, but now channels are popping up left and right, guys warning other guys about these things and sharing what can happen in terms of no-fault divorces, and they can get half your shit and all this other stuff, and taking those things out of the equation, just simply be how unhappy you're going to be. That's not a Hallmark movie. You're not going to live happily ever after. Now, there are some cases where people get married, they actually are happy, and for them, good for them. I'm happy for them, awesome. But by and large, most people range from being just eventually, after a short period of time, start to become just bored with each other, to outright hating each other's guts. You know, I mean, just last week, and I was out with a couple buddies grilling. We hadn't hung out in a year, and the one guy, he's been married for 7 years, and he is miserable. Okay, and he has been this. I would say the first couple of years they were not too bad because that's just how it works. But by about 2016, 3 years into his marriage, that's when it just took a nosedive. His wife, I'd go over there, they'd have parties, and she was just you could just tell, bitchy and unhappy. And by the way, she put on like 25 pounds. This is a woman who used to take care of herself. Now she put on 25 pounds. Her hair's a mess. She's dressing like shit. When before, years earlier, she looked really good. And this guy's miserable. And he's still staying with her because he thinks that's what he's supposed to do. What a man does is support the family. Even though she's always yelling at him and treating him like shit and being disrespectful and all this other bullcrap in front of his daughter, I might add. And now the daughter's going to think that's how things are. And she'll probably treat her future husband that way. And so a lot of guys are unhappy and miserable, and it's not worth it, okay? They think it's going to be all wonderful, but it's not. And more are learning this. But anyhow, I did my little rant there. I had to share that for a lot of you guys that are new, that maybe haven't heard me talk about these things before. So it starts off saying, while more young women say that having a successful marriage is important, fewer men share that goal. Fewer young men in the United States want to get married than ever, while the desire for marriage is rising among young women, according to the Pew Research Center. Pew recently found that the women of 18 through 34 saying that having a successful marriage is one of the most important things rose from 28% to 37% since 1997. Okay, so from 1997 to 2013, we're looking at 16 years. Going from 28% to 37%, that's a big jump. That's a good percentage jump. On the other hand, the number of young adult men saying the same thing dropped from 35% to 29% in the same time. So that's not as huge of a percentage drop, but it's still a drop nevertheless. Guys are waking up. Pew's findings have caught the attention of one U.S. writer who maintains that feminism, deeply entrenched in every segment of the culture, has created an environment in which young men find it more beneficial to simply opt out of coupledom entirely. Again, this is 2013. It has just grown dramatically ever since. Suzanne Vanker's article, The War on Men, this woman, I've done a bunch of articles that she's written over the years, and they're good ones. And her big one, I think, caught attention, was called The War on Men. You guys should check it out. Again, there's a link in the description. Click on that and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Which appeared on the website of Fox News in late November, has become a lodestone for feminist writers who've attacked her position that the institution of marriage is threatened, not enhanced, by the supposed gains on the... At this point, I gotta speak in code or they're gonna freaking flagged the channel, supposing aims of the feminist movement over the last 50 years. And there's a quote saying, "Where have all the good men, meaning marriageable men, gone?" is a question most talked about lately in the secular media. Venker says, but her answer, backed up by statistics, is not to the liking of mainstream commentators influenced by feminism. The old, where are all the good men, where are all the marriageable men? Guys, if I had $1 for every single time I've heard that from women I know in their 30s and 40s, women I know either that they're women that I'm friends with, acquainted with, or clients, members of the gyms I've worked at, and of course, friends of friends and things like that, from all the articles I've read, things like that, you wouldn't believe it. If I had $1 for every time I've heard that, at this point I could probably retire. It's unbelievable. And of course, who do they put the blame on? Us. But these guys, you have more and more women going to school, getting not just a bachelor's degree in college, but masters and things like that. Women want a guy they can look up to. So stats, your status, that's so important to women. I said this before in the videos. I'm going to cover it again just in case you guys didn't notice it. They want to, contrary to what the feminists want you to believe, most women want a guy that is higher than them, they can look up to because they feel like they're getting something out of it. They don't want a guy they can look down upon who has less status than they do, less degrees, make less money, but as more and more women are getting more advanced degrees, getting better positions in companies, starting their own businesses, you're going to have a lot of them higher up, and there's not going to be as many guys in those positions. And they wonder why they can't get they all want the top few percent. They feel like they're entitled to the top few percent. But there's only so many of those guys to go around. And typically those guys don't want women like that because women that usually are higher ups in companies or start their own businesses, they've embraced feminism and they have all these masculine traits where they're very assertive, domineering, ball busting. They're not sensitive. They don't have feminine qualities. They have masculine qualities. And a masculine guy is not going to be attracted to a masculine woman. It doesn't work that way. But so many of them don't understand this, and it's just easier to say, oh, well, these guys, they can't handle a strong woman. Men can handle anything you put in front of them. Men just aren't attracted to that, and also they don't want to fucking deal with it. It's a turnoff, but these women don't get it, and then they want to blame us because they're alone and can't have families and all that, and they just want. It's easier to say there are no good men out there. There's no gentlemen out there. Well, we know what movement killed that. Goes on. She points out that for the first time in U.S. history, the number of women in the workforce has surpassed the number of men, while more women than men are acquiring university degrees. That's what I'm talking about. More guys are realizing, wait a second here. In this day and age, the cost to go to college and just to get a bachelor's degree alone is so much money that I'm going to be paying it off for decades. And the job I can get from acquiring that piece of paper for whatever degree I'm in isn't going to justify, the salary I get isn't going to justify the money I'm going to be spending all these years and be locked down with. Now, there are certain degrees, obviously, that are better than others. If you're getting something that has actually a demand for, typically in business or computers or IT. But how many guys do you know, they in the past got bullshit degrees in something like psychology or sociology or something like that? Unless you're going on to become a doctor or something like that, or a professor, it's not worth it. But also, you have women now that they would pick a guy that would have these degrees but have all this debt versus a guy that has a good steady trade, a job that's a trade, no debt. Maybe he makes a little bit less than the white collar guy, or maybe even in a lot of cases more, but that's not enough status for them. Therefore, he's not marriage material. It's a bunch of crap. But you know what? They're doing these guys a favor because these guys aren't getting married, so good for them. Continues. The problem, she has a question mark there. The problem, this new phenomena has changed the dance between men and women, Venker wrote, with feminism pushing them out of their traditional roles as breadwinner, protector, and provider, and divorce laws increasingly creating a dangerously precarious financial prospect for the men cut loose from marriage. Men are simply no longer finding any benefit in it. There is no benefit in it. And again, this is from 2013. Fast forward in time 7 years, it's even a worse situation for guys. It's not worth it, guys. Better to be single, on your own, happy, choosing how you live your life. And if you want to do relationships, okay, that's your business. But you don't get married to them and you don't move in with them, because that's a whole other can of worms you got to deal with if you move in with them. Because I know a lot of you guys, they're guys that follow me here, have nothing to do with women. That's it. They're done for life. But plenty of other guys that do relationships, and I know I got married guys that follow me here. It's okay. That's your life. Fine. If you watch me, maybe I can help motivate you to either basically to help you hold on until the kids leave the house, if that's what you tell me you want to do. Or maybe I can motivate you guys to find the strength to say, you know what, this situation sucks. I'm going to find a way out, and I'll get a clean slate. It's going to be hard. I'm going to have to bite the bullet and take a hit in the divorce and alimony and shit like that, but at least I get a second chance. I get all sorts of guys that watch me here. But at the end of the day, marriage isn't working anymore. It doesn't. So if you do relationships and have a good time and let women come and go after the honeymoon period ends, fine. That's your business. Enjoy it. And I also got plenty of guys that are just purely into pickup, pump and dump. I got all sorts of viewers here. You're all welcome to join. As a writer and researcher into the trends of marriage and relationships, Venker said she has accidentally stumbled upon a subculture of men who say, in no uncertain terms, that they're never getting married. Well, that subculture has grown much bigger in the last 7 years. When I ask them why, the answer is always the same. Women aren't women anymore. Feminism, which teaches women to think of men as the enemy, has made women angry and defensive, though often unknowingly. Now, a lot of people that follow that mindset and are part of that group would say that's not true. It's about equal rights and equality and having equal pay and all this other crap. It's not it. In this day and age, it's about basically making guys out to be the enemy and basically female superiority and things like that. And I've had the misfortune of knowing some women, young women, by the way, these were young 20-something millennial women, that are like this. And the type of guys that they would attract were much softer guys. They were good guys, don't get me wrong, but they were softer guys. And these women walked all over them. These guys were whipped puppies from almost day one. Fortunately, and I can think of two guys that I used to know, they eventually couldn't take any more than they got out. Okay, but they would... The way they were before these girls and the way they were a year into it was night and day. It's unbelievable. It's like, dude, what happened? Now the men have nowhere to go. It is precisely this dynamic. Women good, men bad. That has destroyed the relationship between the sexes. Yet somehow men are still to blame when love goes away. Men are always the ones to blame. She says, men are tired. Tired of being told there's something fundamentally wrong with them. Tired of being told that if women aren't happy, it's men's fault. It really is a shame the direction things have gone, because they make men out to be the bad guy. Instead of guys having respect and being revered. I mean, if you look at movies and television, how are guys often portrayed in these romantic comedies? They're portrayed as morons, these bumbling idiots. It's not that way. If you look at movies and TV shows before the 80s, completely different ballgame. I'm not saying every guy's going to be Archie Bunker, which that was a funny show, by the way, but totally different dynamic. But they've been trying to sell this for decades about these guys. You look at any of these comedy guys. If you guys don't believe me, if you're watching this now, if you just stumbled upon this video and YouTube recommended it to you, and you don't believe me, just flip through and start watching different romantic comedies on TV and see how the guy is portrayed. Watch a few of these, see how they're portrayed, and then come back and let me know what you think, because that's how they're portrayed. And if you have a generation of boys watching these shows, it's going to brainwash them and think that's just how men act. And it's not. It's not how guys acted before the you-know-what movement. But they're the ones behind this. And meanwhile, in these shows, they have women portrayed as strong and have it together and are smart. And they're the ones that make all the decisions. And whenever the guy does something stupid, she bails him out of trouble and all that. And also, she's usually aloof. And basically, she acts masculine like a guy. And they have the men in varying degrees act like women. It's no accident, guys. Continues, it's the women who lose. Not only are they saddled with the consequences of sex by dismissing male nature, they're forever seeking a balanced life. The fact is, women need men's linear career goals. They need men to pick up the slack at the office in order to live the balanced life they seek. A cross-section of research data from the Pew Research Center for the last months of 2012 show the alarming trends for marriage and childbearing in the United States. One report published in mid-December said that the latest census data showed barely half of all adults in the United States are currently married, a record low. Since 1960, the number of married adults has decreased from 72% to 51% today. And the number of new marriages in the United States declined by 5% between 2009 and 2010. That's nuts, guys. I mean, since 1960, going from 72% to 51%. Wow. But what does that show you? And by the way, it also goes to show that as time has gone on, other statistics will show that less and less guys, they're waiting longer to get married. If they do it, they take longer. I mean, it's just a different world out there. And they're waking up, which is really great to hear. But again, this is from 2013. I'd love to get the official stats for 2020. Moreover, the median age at first marriages continues to rise, with women getting married the first time at 26.5 years and men at 28.7. The declines in marriage are most dramatic among young adults. Just 20% of those aged 18 through 29 are married, compared with the 59% in 1960. So between 1960, 59% of people got married between 18 and 29. That's crazy. I mean, but that's what happened. My mom used to tell me how, let me do the math here. I think my mom graduated high school in 1963, I think. She was born in 45, so I think it was 1963. And she said back in those days, because she grew up in a small farming town in Pennsylvania, she said back in those days, it was common that guys would graduate high school and then get a decent paying job in a factory or something like that. And they were usually married within a year or so. So we're talking about dudes getting married 19 or 20 before they can legally drink. That's insane. But that's how things were done back then. Now, obviously, that's not happening now, and that's a good thing. And I've told you guys before in the videos, for you guys are watching me now, and for whatever reason you're hell-bent on getting married, maybe it's your culture, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your own personal beliefs, okay? I tell you what, I present the information, I share life experience I've learned from myself, from friends I've known, people I've known, all the research. But if you're still going to do it and get married, at least, guys, wait until you're older. Wait until you're 30 years old. It may seem like crazy to you. Get the life experience, because when you're in your early 20s, you don't know shit about life. You're still a kid. I mean, there was a time and place where people had to grow up real fast. That's not in this day and age. In our very pampered day and age, people aren't really growing up until they're about 30 years old, at best. So get some life experience. And by then, you might realize, maybe this isn't for me. That's just my little tip, if you're going to do it. If current trends continue, the share of adults who are currently married will drop to below half within a few years, the report said. Moreover, the link between marriage and child rearing has become disconnected in the minds of the so-called millennial generation, those between 18 and 29. Again, that's back in 2013. While 52% of millennials say being a good parent is one of the most important things in life, just 30% say the same thing about having a successful marriage, an additional survey found. The gap of 22 percentage points between the value millennials place on parenthood over marriage was just 7 points in 1997. The research found that millennials, whom of many are the children of divorce and single-parent households themselves, are also less likely than their elders to say that the child needs both a father and a mother at home. That single parenthood and unmarried couple parenthood are bad for society. Well, you look at all the single, generally it's the moms raising kids, and I've noticed a trend that a lot of boys raised by single moms, not all but a lot, tend to be very irresponsible, very weak, because usually the moms are the mama bear types, and mama bear handles everything. Meanwhile, the daughters mimic the behavior of mom. They're more assertive, they're stronger, they're tougher. They're tougher than the boys because mama bear's tough. I used to have a client, really cool woman. We became friends before she injured herself, and she raised the son, and as much as she, you know, wanted to do the right thing, she was a mama bear. And the boy, he was a good kid, really respectful, but he was just weak. He was, you know, kind of a pussy. And I would help him. I would train her in boxing, and then I would let the kid do some mitt work with me, where I'd hold up the mitts, and he put on his boxing gloves and start hitting them, and I'd try to teach him some things, you know, and set an example. But just, you know, these single-parent households is just the effect on boys. It's amazing, you know. And don't get me wrong, it's nice that they're obviously loved most of the time, but not having the father there, the role model to help those boys. But even now in this day and age, what role model are they going to get? Because a lot of men nowadays aren't exactly the men that what men were decades before, thanks to you know what. So, but anyhow, guys, I thought this was interesting to share because it's 7 years old and it's definitely predicted how things are today. But guys are waking up; they don't want to deal with this bullshit anymore. Anyhow, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below, let me know what you think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.